Welcome to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two very old friends who love to talk about murder and everything else. Maybe not so much murder for Joy, but she humors me and she listens and then she goes and throws up. So Joy, it's finally happened. It's finally happened. Ask me what's happened.
What happened?
The weather has finally broken, and I'm actually wearing a hoodie in the early mornings to take Callie out for a walk and a robe late at night to go outside. I mean, it's finally happened. The first week of
Holy
November.
cow.
I hope. I should maybe not talk because next week it might go back up to the 90s. But right now, it's so nice. And anyone who knows, I mean, your thing is you don't like being cold, right? And I don't like being hot. And you whatever season you don't like, it's like you feel like a prisoner during that season. You know what I mean? Like for you, you probably don't want to go anywhere when it's super cold. I don't want to go anywhere. Well, it's virtually impossible because I can't walk, Callie. The pavement is so hot. It's dangerous. So I feel like a prisoner in the house from June through November. And it's awful. And now I feel it's so liberating to not have to schedule my day around the temperature. You don't even understand, it's such a small thing, but it's not. It's huge. Or like some people like to say huge. Why do people drop the H? Why do some people drop the H on huge?
I don't know. And also the one that drives me crazy is human being. People say,
oh, I don't understand.
There's a lot of human beings. And I'm like, it's human.
Why are we dropping the H in the English language all of a sudden?
They're just colloquialisms. Like it depends on where you were born and raised. You know, like
where would that be?
You know, like some people say room instead of room.
Shut up. But where would that be that you would be dropping the H? Where would you have to be from to say?
I don't know, Florida, Texas. Isn't that where all the crazy
Holy crap. Yeah, Florida. I sent you that story on that Halloween. There was a Halloween shooting. Yeah, but I don't know. It was a parade or a gathering or anyway. And it's from Orlando, Florida.
Cheryl, I'm so happy that the weather has changed. And you're absolutely right. I do dread going outside when it's really cold because I don't like to be cold. So I can imagine it's exactly the same, but the opposite direction.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that is really fun to do when it's really cold or really hot is go to an indoor mall and walk around because usually they're pretty big. You can really get some steps in. I mean, and then you might see something cute that you like.
Yeah, well, the Home Depot and Lowe's here are big on that. A lot of people walk their dogs in there during the summer.
Oh,
they don't mind. Yeah, they welcome it.
And they don't mind if the dog takes a dump in the Home Depot.
I guess because they have all those tools and stuff, and
they should change the name to Dump Depot.
Oh God.
Well, I have an update today, guys, and that is it's a little bit of a personal update, but recently I started taking some medication for anxiety and panic attacks. So I'm still in the getting used to it stage, but so far so good. Anyone out there who is in the middle part of their life who maybe has started or has been taking medication for that, hey, reach out and let us know. I'd love to hear a little bit about what that experience is. And also, who knows, maybe going down the road on a non-murder week, I'll talk a little bit about it. I feel like there used to be a lot of stigma against people getting help for things like that. And I feel like that is not so much the case anymore. Maybe there are people with their own personal stigma. After 55 years of dealing with, at times, crippling anxiety and panic attacks, I'm hoping that things will start to look up. So that's my update. Cheryl, do you have any updates?
I do. So remember we talked about death by suitcase with Sarah Boone killing her boyfriend. I don't know if they were fiance. It might have been a fiance, George Torres, in the suitcase. So at the time we did that episode, she was going to start the trial. I think it was that day or something. Anyway, she was found guilty of second-degree murder. And I think personally, I did not follow. At night, I would look for updates on the trial with several YouTubers that I follow because I was entrenched in the case that we're going to talk about today. So that's the trial I watched. And but I did keep up on the Sarah Boone trial. And I think, in my opinion, her demeanor did not help at all. Also, I mean, I'm not going to go into it too much, but there's some things I want to say. I think if she had gone with the accident, like it was an accident, I was drunk and I fell asleep, probably would have served her better than going with the self-defense angle, because they brought out the prosecution brought out video of her again. People, I mean, it's great when criminals are dumb, but she videoed her berating George. He's like in a ball on the floor and he's drunk, but he's like he's not belligerent drunk. He's like, so sad drunk. He's like, she's berating him and she's making him say, tell me this, da da da. She's like, repeat after me. I mean, so cruel in that video to him that you feel so sympathetic toward him. So I'm sure that didn't help her at all. Also, remember, she was offered a plea deal for, I believe it was I think it was 15 years, but with time served, she probably would have only served 8. Now being found guilty of second-degree murder. They haven't sentenced her yet, but it's at least 22 years, 22 to life. Wow. So that's the update on that, if anybody was interested.
Well, let's just, let's just say you can't be stuffing people in suitcases and then going to bed.
And there, also, that's the moral of the story.
The takeaway. And also, it gives the word baggage a whole new meaning. Someone says I've got baggage. That really just changes everything.
You got someone in your baggage?
Rolling on the shout outs.
Yeah.
Guys, last weekend, well, I have a shout out for the city of New York. Last weekend, I went to New York City. I met up with my girlfriend, Julie. We spent 4 days walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. There was
walking some more.
There was some shopping. There was some seeing, the leaves and walking around Central Park. I got to go to some consignment shops and some resale shops. We even walked into a sample sale. There was drinking coffee and having pastries, and we went and had tea at the Whidbey Hotel and had little finger sandwiches and a really delicious rooibos tea and some clotted cream. I don't know why Americans have not really jumped on board with the clotted cream scone jam combo, but I got to tell you, whatever we brought with us from across the pond, I feel like scones, clotted cream, and jam should have been the number one thing.
Wait, teacher, I'm raising my language. So I'm raising my hand because I have a question. I've said it before. I'm not afraid to look like an idiot. What the heck is clotted cream? And by the way, clotted does not sound appetizing at all.
So also, I'm surprised. I'm glad they don't have mucus mayonnaise and stuff like that. That would be really, moist mustard. Clotted cream in the United States is also known as Devonshire cream. But I got to tell you, I've never.
Well, that would have been nicer, Devonshire cream, but.
It is a thick cream that originated in England, and it's kind of like it's reminiscent of, it's like a high quality unsalted butter. So it has like a butter consistency, but like it's more creamy like cream cheese,
You like
but
cream
the
cheese?
flavor
Okay.
is like a butter.
Well,
But it's
they
not real buttery. It's not greasy like butter. It's so good, Cheryl. It's so good. First, you open the scone because it's warm, and you put the clotted cream on, and then it's kind of getting melty, and then
sorry.
you put the jam on. It's so good.
I'm sorry, but that they made a huge mistake using the word clotted.
Clotted.
It just is not appetizing at all.
It's so good. And
Oh
it's,
God.
I've decided that one of the things I'm going to add to Christmas morning now. So
Don't.
my oldest daughter always makes cinnamon rolls on Christmas Eve, or my mother-in-law sometimes sends us croissants, which we'll make Christmas morning, and they're delicious. They're from Williams Sonoma. They come packed on ice, dry ice, and they're frozen. I don't know if there's a Williams Sonoma down the street from me, but they show up really, really frozen. I feel like scones, clotted cream, and jam is going to be something I add to either Christmas Eve breakfast or Christmas Day breakfast because it's literally so good.
That's great. But can you do me a favor? And
Mhm.
when you tell your family what's on the menu, can you change it to Christmas cream instead of
Christmas cream.
clotted cream?
Christmas cream also has an interesting like connotation. Anyhow,
Oh,
the trip to New York was nice. So fun. I came home with a larger suitcase because I had more stuff in it. I also have to tell those of you who have not flown through LaGuardia in a few years, it's unbelievably nice. They took that rat infested little subway looking airport and it is gorgeous. And I took an
wow.
amazing Uber from LaGuardia into Manhattan. I met a nice man who was from Uzbekistan. I can tell you in my life, I've never met someone from Uzbekistan that I know of. So that was fun. The top of the Uber, it was a Tesla. The top of the Uber was all glass and the sun had not come up when I landed. So I got to watch the sun come up through the top. It was
Oh
just
my
so
God.
cool.
How cool.
Yeah, it was really, really fun trip, guys. And I forgot. We got into the elevator to go down to get some breakfast because I landed at like 8 in the morning or something ridiculous, 7:45. So I was at the hotel before 10 o'clock in the morning. So went up to the room, dropped the bags, went out to get on the elevator. We're on the 8th floor. Standing right in front of the elevators was William H. Macy. Get into the elevator with him. For those of you who don't know who this is, he was in Fargo, he was in Shameless. Great actor. I've never seen him in something that he, sucked at. He just said, which floor? We pressed the floor. And I thought, there's no way this famous actor is staying on the same floor we're staying on in a pokey little hotel room. But then, of course, I'm like, at the cost of a hotel room in Manhattan, maybe he is staying in a pokey little hotel room. And then we
Yeah.
rode down to the first floor. We had just seen each other, so we were busy talking, starting our catch up process. And we just said, have a nice day and walked out. And I said later, I bet actors and famous people love New York City because it's so big and so hustle bustle. You just don't get treated the same like when you're being hounded like in LA or somewhere else, by
Yeah, I
paparazzi,
agree.
et cetera, et cetera. So it must feel really nice because, I'm not I'm not a star fucker and she's not. I don't know if that's the right word. We just, we weren't going to be like, "Oh my god, you're so famous. Can I have your autograph?" We were just like
Right.
regular. He's a regular guy, we're regular people. Big deal. So
Is
that was
there anyone? Oh, okay. Is there anyone that you would be, gaga over? Like, if what if Jason
Oh
Momoa? What
yeah.
if
Eric
Jason Momoa?
Estrada.
No, what if Jason Momoa or Idris Elba had been in that elevator?
I feel
Well,
like I feel like Jason Momoa would have been real chill because he seems like a real chilled out dude. Like we
mhm.
could have just been like, "Oh my God, I think you are such a fun and handsome guy. If anything ever happens between you and your significant other and me and my significant other, maybe we could work something out where we could be significant others." But
Together.
I
Hey,
think if it was like honestly, I think if it was Barack Obama, I literally would be I think I would just be in awe.
tongue tied.
Yeah, because he's a
Would you take a
president.
picture?
I would ask him if he would let me take a picture.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
what I
think
mean. Would
I
you?
also would feel the same about Michelle Obama because, like, I feel like she's amazing. I think Hillary Clinton would also be somebody, if it was Jimmy Carter, although he's like 100, so I don't know if he'd ever be in an elevator by himself. You
What if
know,
you? What if Trump was in the elevator?
I would probably take a different elevator. Just wait. I'd wait it out. I'd be like, you know what? There's not enough room for you, me, and whatever you like to grab, Also, I'm just gonna wait it out because the other thing is I've heard that he's very flatulent and that he wears diapers. And I gotta be honest, I'm a nanny. So I change a lot of diapers. So I don't got time for extra diapers.
Oh my God. Okay.
Anyway, Cheryl, you got any shout
Oh,
outs?
I do. And listen, you guys, I am totally obsessed with trials and whatnot. So my thing is trial themed today. Okay. But my shout out, and I've told Joy about this. Poor Joy. She's trying to go to sleep the other night. And I'm like, can I just say one more thing? And blah, 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 blah. And I had diarrhea of the thumbs. Um, so, there's a Delphi trial going on. Richard Allen is the accused. This is the murder of the two girls, 13 and 14, Liberty German, and Abigail Abby Williams. They were killed in 2017. The trial is going on right now, and I'm going to try to make this as short and sweet as I possibly can, like I did with my text to Joy the other night.
Oh my God.
I was like, this is it. I'm not saying anymore. And then I'm like, can I just say?
She
And then I
was
go
on fire, guys. On fire.
I'm probably going to do an episode on this, but I just want to tell you that the judge is not allowing any cameras in there. She's not releasing any audio, and this should be. The public has a right to see what's going on, so it's very sus. I'm going to do an episode because it's so sus and it's so frustrating and angering to those of us that feel like he's not getting a fair trial, whether he's guilty or innocent. I want justice for those girls, but I wanted him to have a fair trial, and he has not gotten it so far. Well, it's the case has already, the state has already rested, and by the time this comes out, there may even be a verdict. But I just want to give a shout out to the community, for people who are into not just true crime, but justice and the legal system. And for some reason, I'm really interested in the legal system. So because cameras aren't being allowed in there and audio and transcripts are not being released, people like YouTubers, just YouTubers who do true crime, lawyers who have channels, have taken it upon themselves to go there. Some of them don't even live in Indiana. They are flying in and doing this on their own. The process to get into the court, they are sleeping overnight on the courtroom steps or wherever, somewhere nearby. And they were lining up as early as they could because there's only like 22 seats. I think the press gets a couple of seats and then 22 for everybody else. So they had to line up super early after sleeping wherever, not getting a good night's sleep, and then going into the court, hoping they get in. And then you can't take any electronic devices. So they are handwriting their notes. They are handwriting and everything that goes on for at least 8 hours. I can't write anymore, Joy. If I write for a card, that's it. A greeting card. My hand hurts after that. So these people are writing the entire day. The community community, meaning people who are interested in this stuff, got together and they were saving the seats for these people, for the YouTubers and the lawyer and other people that wanted to get into the courtroom. They started banding together and standing in line for them, you know, like seat saving or stand in line savers, so that the people that are going to go in and spend all day handwriting this stuff can get some sleep. Because if you're sleeping on the courthouse steps, did I say courtroom? Courthouse steps, standing in line at 4 a.m. in the morning or whatever, and then you get in the court and then you're falling asleep. So it's incredible how this community has come together so that people can get the information that they are being prevented from hearing and seeing. This trial is so suspect. I'm telling you, this is just a travesty of our judicial system and this man's constitutional rights. Joy, it's 2024. You would think this was the 50s. It is unbelievable that in this small town, this is happening. Very bad. My shout out is to people who care.
To people who care. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Well, you know, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with this case. I mean, I will say that, you know, sometimes it'll go to hung jury or sometimes it'll get thrown out or there'll be a technicality and it'll become a mistrial. So stand by, guys. We'll definitely be either doing an episode on this or giving updates as they happen. And she's absolutely right, guys. Cheryl is the best murder podcast partner because she knows her shit. Let's just say that. On that note, we are headed right back to murder this week. Yeah, and you got it. Cheryl is our resident expert. So tell us what you have in store for us, girl.
Okay, so just as I was saying that I didn't watch the Sarah Boone, suitcase murder trial as it happened, it was because I was watching another trial that was on simultaneously, so I had to pick. And so before I start, I don't want to forget to let you all know this is about a murder of a 20-month-old boy. So, click off if this is not for you, because it's going to be rough. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I want to bring honor to this little boy's life and bring attention to it, because he has such a short time on this earth. And the person that he should have been able to look to for safety and love was the person that killed him. I also just want to I just want to talk shit, Joy, about bad mothers. There are bad mothers and bad fathers. I get that, but I am going to focus on bad mothers because with Jen Soto, there's just been so much lately that it just kills me. I don't understand it. If you hate your child that much, get someone else to take them. There are so many people out there who would love to have a child. Find someone else. Don't let their short little lives be filled with abuse and neglect. And this case just kills me. If y'all want to look up a image, his name is Quinton Simon. Adorable 20-month-old. I also am going to talk about the dedication that law enforcement and the FBI and anyone who was involved in this case, whether they were a civilian or some type of, official, the dedication they showed to finding and bringing justice to this little boy. I just feel so passionate about this because, like with the Delphi case that I just spoke about earlier, there's so much reasonable doubt that if this man is convicted on the evidence that was brought before this court, I'm going to cry. There's going to be so much outrage because he may be guilty, but in the court of law, they have no, not only is the evidence weak, the stuff that the judge and the law enforcement and the prosecution team, what they are doing is so shady. I'm there's so many of us that cannot believe that they are doing this in 2024, and that even though they don't have cameras, people. That's why I give a shout out to these people who are going above and beyond, is this understatement, to
Do you
get
feel like
in that.
it's just because they want to pin this on someone?
Yes, I believe that the murder happened in 2017, and they didn't charge Richard Allen until 2022. I think they were desperate to close the case because everyone in this small little community was so upset. Nothing like this had ever happened there.
Right.
They have many suspects, and I'll go into it. I'll do an episode because they had many suspects, other ones that were cleared, and for whatever reason they settled on him. Anyway, but I'm going to talk about this trial and this little boy because there was no reasonable doubt. It was like watching this trial was like watching a movie. The prosecution and all the law enforcement, like I alluded to, they were incredible. Joy, I've never seen anything like it. Just like I've never seen anything like what's going on with Delphi. I've never seen such a tight case. And it was awful because Quinton's never coming back. This sweet, sweet, cute little boy. He's never coming back. But you feel a sense of victory because their case was so tight that there was no reasonable doubt. Anyway, my sources were WJCL.com, WTOC.com, and a couple of YouTube channels, Court TV, and my favorite true crime YouTuber now is Gizela K on Grizzly True Crime. So, Joy, we are moving away from Florida and Texas, and we are going to Georgia. So this happened in Georgia. Cute little Quinton Simon. He was only 20 months old when he was murdered and thrown into a dumpster for his little body to be decimated and ground up in the landfill. Quinton Simon's mother is Leilani Simon. She had 3 children by 3 different fathers. She was 22 years old when she murdered Quinton and threw his body in a dumpster like trash. At the time of his murder, okay, there's a lot of names and people, so hopefully you get a visual of this, and if not, just ask me who people are, because there's a lot of names. So at the time of his murder, Leilani lived at her mother's house. Her mother is Billie Jo Howell, and she's married to Thomas Howell, so that's Leilani's stepfather, and they own the house. Leilani's boyfriend at the time is Danny Youngkin. He also lived with her and was the father of her youngest child, Sky, her daughter, Sky. So Leilani's oldest child was Zane. He was 3 years old. He was 3 years old at the time. And I said, as I mentioned, Quinton was only 20 months old at this time. And their daughter Sky was about 4 months old. And also living at the house was one of Leilani's brothers named Paul. So Leilani did not have custody of her sons. So this is already painting a picture, right? I'm not judging, but it's already painting a very hectic, chaotic situation.
Who had the kids?
So her mother, Billie Jo, had custody.
Wait, but she's living at the house with her mom.
Yes. Yep.
So was she living there legally or illegally? Because
the
courts would know that she didn't have custody of her children.
You know, I tried to look up the whole custody issue, and it's very hard to find a lot of information on it. The only thing that I could find was that her mother had custody at the time she got custody, and she had custody of Zane and Quinton, the 2 boys, not of Sky, the daughter. Not yet, anyway. But anyway, the only thing I could find was that Leilani was on probation for theft and was a known drug user at the time that her mom got custody. So, that's the only thing I could find. So probably the courts found that she was an unfit mother or whatever. But yes, you bring up a really good question about her living with her, because at the time this happens, her mother and her stepfather are away on business. They traveled a lot. And so who did she leave the 2 boys that she had custody of? Who did she leave them in the care of? Leilani. So
Wait,
it
but
made no sense.
since the mother had custody of the kids,
Hmm.
I know I'm jumping ahead, but she's going to get in trouble too.
Well, that's the whole, I was going to bring that up later. It's like, I mean, I would be a little bit nervous if I were her, because why did she
Yeah.
leave her in Leilani's care? That's a whole nother Oprah, as they used to say.
Huh.
So her Leilani's boyfriend Danny also did drugs. So this is just a very, like I said, chaotic situation. So Leilani and Danny are drug users. They're living with the two little boys and their daughter at Billy Joe's house. Okay. Leilani, Danny, and her brother Paul all worked for the same company. They worked in the warehouse of a third party distribution company for Target. While Danny was admittedly a drug user and a heavy drinker, he did his best to care for the children, of whom two are not his. Remember,
Right.
the boys are not his. And he would, the brother Paul would later testify that Quinton, because he lived with them. So he would often hear Quinton in his little pack and play. That's where they had him sleep. He would call out, Danny, Danny, Danny. And he would not call out for his mother. After this, you can understand why, but that's
Right.
so heartbreaking. Leilani, on the other hand, would often not go to work, leaving the children with the babysitter who lived catty corner across the street. The babysitter's name is Michelle McCarta. It's actually Diane McCarta, but she goes by her middle name, Michelle. Just saying that in case you look this up and you're like, she said Michelle and it's Diane. And Michelle's daughters also helped watch the children. So what happened on that fateful day? So let's go back to October 5th of 2022. Danny was at work when Leilani, who had slept in and decided not to go to work that day, called him around 9 a.m. to say that Quinton was missing. And Danny ran out of the warehouse where he worked in tears to get home. And when he gets home, Leilani is just sitting on the back porch. She says the front door was open and Quinton was gone. Her story was that a stranger must have taken him. Her brother Paul, who had been sleeping in the room upstairs, was unaware of what was going on until the police showed up later. And this means that Quinton is missing, and she didn't run up to the person who was in the house at that time and say, did you see him? Do you know where he is? She just went straight to calling Danny and then sat on the porch. So Danny calls Michelle, the babysitter, just to see if by chance she had Quinton, or if she had seen him, because she will later say that from her house, she can see Leilani's house. And there's times where they would see the two little boys like on the street or near the street, and they would go rescue them, Michelle and her daughters, because Leilani just she could give two shits. Okay. So
So sad.
upon hearing that Quinton is missing, Michelle heads straight over to Leilani's house. And when she gets there, she's surprised to find that the police have not been called yet. So she says, you got to call the police. So Danny calls the police. And when the police get there, Leilani sticks to her stranger abduction story. The next day, Chatham County Police Chief Jeff Hadley held a press conference saying, police were treating the case as a missing person investigation, and there is no evidence to indicate that Quinton is no longer alive. They're looking for a missing boy. Okay. So searches are conducted on the home, the backyard pool, and the pond. That was the 5th and the 6th. So on October 12th, the Chatham County
Has
Police.
she called her mom to say like, hey, my kid's gone missing?
They don't go into the timeline of what's going on with the mother, but they must return shortly after that. I'm sure she calls her, because they are both on, the mother and her husband are interviewed in front of the house, and the mother is genuinely, sincerely upset. And then there's I laugh because Leilani was definitely no criminal mastermind, thank goodness. But she does a local news interview with her mom, and her mom is distraught. Her mom loved the kids. So
Right.
the mother is back after the Quinton goes quote unquote missing. The mother and her husband do come back, and they're interviewed on camera and all of this. Okay, so Now, so a week after the incident, after he goes missing, the police issue a statement saying they now think they notify the family that they now believe Quinton is deceased. They and then they name Leilani Simon as the prime suspect in the disappearance and death. But no arrests have been made and no charges have been filed. But 6 days later,
So she knows that they think she's responsible, but she's just wandering around her house like free.
yeah, so I believe that
Weird.
at this time she's been, told that she's a suspect. And then when she is finally arrested, it's her mom that brings her in. Her mom,
Oh.
she goes to, oh no, that's right. She
Also,
goes
if
to
her mom genuinely loved the kids, why did she ever leave
leave.
to go travel and leave her crazy nutcase daughter in charge of her children, who doesn't even have custody of the kids?
I know. It's
Sorry. I mean, that's like, I wouldn't leave my animals in the care of someone crazy.
I know. It's the whole thing is so heartbreaking because these children are victims. They're truly victims to their circumstance. You know what I mean? It's like this is what they're given. Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this. But I forgot that now that you're asking, Leilani did check herself into a mental health care facility after all, her Quinton goes missing. On the 18th of October, 2022, we're still back in 2022. After video surveillance research, the police believe that Quinton's body was placed in a dumpster. And I'm telling you, thank God for security cameras. Thank God. They would not have been able to convict her if they did not have. Yep, you guys don't ever think you can't pick your nose without it being on camera, okay? Or pull your chonies out of your butt. No, so they believe his body was placed in a dumpster, and I'll go more into that later, which is just heartbreaking. I think this is why there was so much public interest in this case, because the thought of a little boy being thrown into a dumpster, and you know what happens at the landfill.
Yeah. Let's not go into detail. All right.
Okay.
So then what happens?
So multiple witnesses say, while the entire community is searching for Quinton and the entire world is praying that he's found alive, although the police they've already announced that they think he's dead. Multiple witnesses say they see Leilani and her mother drinking shots at a Tybee Island establishment at a restaurant. It's kind of the Casey Anthony thing. When her daughter was missing, she was seen out partying.
Yeah, anyway. The difference though is that she's not out partying with her mom,
Right. I know. This is why
yikes.
If I was Billy Joel, this is not Billy Joel. if I was Billy Joel, I'd be very nervous.
It's my life.
So this landfill search goes on for 6 weeks, and I want to talk about this. I know you don't want me to go into. I'm not going to go into it. You can imagine what happened to Quinton's poor little body, but I have to talk about this because during the trial, the prosecutor in his closing statement goes, "I know more about landfills than I ever wanted to know." I got to tell you, Joy, I was shocked at how interested I was in this portion of the trial.
because there's lots of bugs?
No, because who knew that these trash companies or the whole trash business and landfill, this is probably actually pretty demeaning that I'm saying this, and pretty naive and dumb that I'm saying this. They have such a system for picking up trash. I can't even tell you how organized their whole standard operating procedure is, and that they do care about the environment. So anyway, the landfill search goes on for 6 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks. And even though this was October, it was still warm, and I can attest. So I guess in Georgia it was still, and I can say Arizona is still freaking hot in October. So let me, I just, so there were volunteers. Altogether, there were about maybe 30-ish volunteers over the course of the 6 weeks. But on any given day, there were probably maybe about 20 to 25. And so they had people that were volunteers on the stand. And I just want to tell you what these people, volunteers now, they're not getting paid.
Right.
They're doing this because they want to find this little boy before it's too late. They had to suit, and when this one lady was describing it, I was like so claustrophobic that I was like ready to throw up. They had to put on boots and then those blue booties on top of it, like those hospital booties that go over your, the like sterile ones. And then on top of that, another pair of boots. Okay. And this is over their clothes. And then they tape the top of the boots because you're in freaking hazardous material that you're walking through.
Sure.
So you can't, it's like going camping.
You don't want to get freaking hepatitis from digging around in a dump.
Yeah. And let's remember,
people bag up all kind of stuff and dump it out in the dump.
And needles.
Oh, I didn't think about needles.
There's needles. There's just so much shit. I mean, literally. I was just amazed when you really think about it. That's why I wanted to spend some time on this, because when these people were on the stand, I'm like, oh, you read it in an article and it's one sentence. Volunteers went out to the landfill and it took, for 6 weeks. No. You got to put yourself in these. So then they have the top of their boots taped so that nothing can get in. And then they have to put on one of those like hazmat suits or whatever, and then gloves. And I think some of them wore 2 gloves. Then they had to tape that. And all I keep thinking for me was, what if I have to go to the bathroom? So then they have to, then they tape the top of the gloves so that nothing gets in there. And then they're all suited up. Then they have to wear, of course, these gas mask things. I mean, imagine how hazardous that crap is. Then they have to wear that. And then they're each carrying a little pouch for any bones they might find.
Oh, God.
Okay. Then they also have Home Depot like type buckets around, because you can imagine that you're in a landfill, Joy. Do you know how many bones are there? Not human bones, just bones, chicken bones.
Sure. Oh, God.
Can you imagine
about that?
How many bones? So they had to have a forensic pathologist on site, and she was under her own little canopy thing. And they would either throw the bones in the bucket or you could put it in your pouch. And she'd have to sift through all of this to determine which were human bones and which were not, right? So this goes on for 6 weeks. And let me tell you, so they have the waste management general manager on there. And first of all, he testifies to the fact that they were not obligated. They were not legally obligated to help law enforcement or the FBI with this search. They could have said, no, you're going to interrupt our operation.
Or they could have said, you have to find your own people to do this. We've got jobs.
No, they did. These were all volunteers from every walk of life. They were not volunteers from the waste management company. But so this is where it was so interesting, because the general manager explains, because you have to think, how did they know where to look? Right. The whole landfill, the one that we're talking about, is about 2.5 football fields in size. Right. Okay. So how are they going to know? They're never going to find him if they just willy-nilly or pick a random spot, like flip a coin. No. So it's very methodical, and I was blown away. So they know which dumpster Leilani put Quinton in, and they contact the waste management and they say, do you know on this day where the trash would have gone. Well, they contact them right away. Do you know where, in what portion of your landfill this dumpster on this day would have been taken to? Oh, let me check my records. Yes, they have it all mapped out where
Wow.
a fucking dumpster from. Do you know how many dumpsters there are in the city?
Oh my
They
God.
know the
What
truck,
a
the
nightmare.
they know no, it's beautiful. They know the truck, they know the
No,
driver,
I
they
just
know
can't
the
even
time.
imagine like I just can't imagine like having to do the legwork on something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? The it's fucking horrible that what happened, how Quentin was treated in his 20 months on this earth, and how his life ended, and how his body was treated after his life had been ended. But the beauty of how the powers up there, or Quentin himself, was not going to let his mom get off with this, because she wanted him to not never be found. Without that
Huh.
evidence of her putting him in the dumpster, and if they never found him, the jury could be like, well, we don't know what she put in the dumpster. Yeah, you have video
We
of her
never
going to the
found the
dumpster.
body. We have
Well,
no evidence.
yeah. So Waste Management is like, oh, heck yeah, we know the truck, we know the driver, we know the time, we know exactly what quadrant of the landfill that dumpster was
Wow,
taken
that's
to.
crazy.
Okay. Then they have a whole system with the trash. I'm sorry, y'all, if I'm boring you. I found this freaking fascinating. They have a whole system where they have these huge trucks. There's a name for it. I'm going to call it a truck. Um, with these huge tires that have cleats, like your shoe, like, when you play soccer or whatever, you have those cleats, but they're
Hmm.
huge, and it's to grind up metal, glass, and bone. Okay. So they have to, right? They have to maximize their space. So they roll over all the stuff to get it compacted down, and then they put this layer of mud over it to help contain the smell. And they have this whole system, Joy. I was so freaking blown away. So law enforcement contacts them. They willingly, when they hear what's going on, they're like, of course we're going to help you. So they have to. Now, remember, they have a process. So they have to stop the dumping at that particular um, uh, area of the landfill. It comes out later that they lost about $40,000, or they spent 40,000, because they have to reroute stuff and reconfigure.
Wow.
It's not about just going there and dumping shit. I had this picture that was this big old hole, like a big crater somewhere, that all
Right.
of it was just poured into, and then it just like you just kept going.
Right.
It is so organized. I was so enthralled. They had PowerPoint, they had animation. It was incredible. And then after 2 to 3 years, that section is covered in grass. And I mean, they have this whole
Huh.
environmental aspect, that they are very environmentally aware. It is incredible. So anyway, they stop dumping in that quadrant of the landfill, and they allow the FBI to do their search. Now, the one thing that the waste management company provided was the equipment to go and bulldoze, because what they'd have to do is pick up a portion of it, take it to an empty area, spread it out, and then these volunteers would get a rake and they'd sift through it inch by inch. If you
Holy
guys
cow.
go and you look for this, if you're going to see just gray, brown sludge on the ground. You're not going to see like plastic bags. I mean, it's covered in this sludge. I don't know how they were able to see
Hmm.
anything. They did this in the heat, and they would take shifts and they would switch out. But I'm thinking again, how do you get to the bathroom? Anyway, so I
I think
just
you
wanted
could
to.
just go in your suit, you know?
That's what you would do.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I would put on, some kind of Depends.
Right? It's just, well, and you wouldn't smell it, because can you imagine the smell? Oh gosh, so after all their hard work, on November 18, 2022, Quinton's partial remains are found in the landfill. That very same day, the babysitter who loved Quinton so much holds a candlelight vigil for Quinton. Is Leilani or her mother holding a candlelight vigil? No. On November 21st, preliminary findings show the remains at the landfill are human, and they believe that it's Quinton. Leilani is charged with the murder of her missing toddler. So on November 21st, she was going to get out of the mental institution, and her mom says, I'll pick you up and we'll go for, a dinner. And she drives Leilani to the police station. So good on her for that. Because, yeah, she just did that on her own. So a week later, the FBI confirms that the remains are those of Quinton. Now, imagine if the bones were not his.
Right.
And it was someone. This is what my mind cannot stop going, because, I mentioned this, I think, before on another episode, that someone's missing and then they find a body in a body of water or buried somewhere, and they find out it's not the person they're looking for. And I'm thinking, but it's someone. So someone's body has just, and I've heard someone say there's a lot of bodies all over the place.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the amount of murders that have gone uninvestigated? So anyway, I couldn't help but think about, what if they found, bones and it wasn't Quinton's? I mean, somebody's bones are out there, but it was Quinton's. Okay. So on December 12th, 2022, Billy Joe, I just have to wonder about her. She's found in contempt of court. Couldn't really find what it was. I found stuff that said it might have to do, nobody really knows why she was found in contempt of court, but she was sentenced to 10 days in jail. It might have been because she violated a gag order. So, yeah, so like you said, there's a lot of question about her actions and if she should be held like legally responsible for something, because she had custody and she left them with Leilani. Right. So on December 14th, the district attorney announces 19 indictments against Leilani Simon, including malice murder, felony murder, and if you're wondering what the difference is, I'm going to explain it. 1 count of concealing his death and several counts of making false statements during the investigation. So we're going to fast forward now to this year. So October 10th of this year, it's the first day of jury selection. There's 67 potential jurors and 20 qualified, and 16 were eliminated. And 2 days later, they're seated. Okay, so October 14th, opening statements are given by the prosecution and defense. Testimony begins with several law enforcement officers taking the stand to testify about what they saw the day Quinton disappeared and the search for his remains at the landfill. October 15th, the jury is shown a police interview with Leilani from the day Quinton was reported missing. This is one of many videos of Leilani changing her story and lying about Quinton's disappearance. She first said she never went to the dumpster. Then she says she went to the dumpster, but it was to throw out stinky shrimp pasta. And everybody had a problem with that. They were like, is she calling Quinton stinky shrimp pasta, like subliminally or covertly? You know what I mean? The detective asked what she did at the dumpster, and she says she looked in the bag before throwing it out. And he asked, why would you look in the bag? And she doesn't answer, right? Because if you're throwing out trash, do you have to open it and look at it before if you're throwing out real trash? Do you ever open it and look at it before you throw it out? No. So that was kind of telling, right? That she says she opened the bag to look in it. She's also on video several times saying she does not know where Quinton is, but get this, she was on the news saying this, and she said it many times. That she did not know what happened to him, but if it's found out that she had anything to do with it, she will take full responsibility. Who says that as an innocent person? I don't know what happened to my child, but if you guys find out I had anything to do with it, I promise I'll take, crazy. So on October 16, Leilani Simon's ex-boyfriend Daniel Youngkin testifies about aiding in the FBI's investigation. He reveals that the FBI bugged a hotel room that he and Leilani were staying at in hopes of uncovering the truth about what happened to Quinton. He willingly So get this, he left like with, I don't know, a month or two after Quinton went missing and she was arrested and all this stuff. He left the area because he really didn't know anybody there except her. But he was working with them the whole time. And it's like a movie. He let them bug his phone for 3 months to assist the FBI in their investigation against Leilani. He did this willingly, knowing that the FBI would be listening to all his calls. Can you imagine that? They're not going to sift through, and they don't know which ones. They're listening live to all of his calls, and they assured him that they were only interested in his calls pertaining to the case, and he would not be charged with any other illegal activity, because he was a drug user and admitted one, and they told him, we're not interested in that right now. Okay. So but at one point Leilani texted an FBI agent and threw Danny under the bus and tried to blame Quinton's death on him.
Ooh.
And also tried to throw Quinton's father under the bus. Quinton's father is never brought he's never brought to the trial. He's never brought in as a witness, but there's evidence. That's why the security camera, if you're guilty, is going to bring you down, and if you're innocent, it's going to actually help you, because they, in order to support the fact that Danny had nothing to do with it, they showed the video. So the defense was saying, when Leilani called him to say that Quinton was missing, if he had anything to do with it, he wouldn't have run out of the warehouse like that in tears. On the way out, he ran into his supervisor or his manager, and the manager testified that Danny was genuinely crying when he found out that Quinton was missing. So all of this just supports, that he wasn't involved. So October 17 of this is this year, the trial's going. Michelle and an old friend of Leilani's would testify that Leilani resented Quinton. She told them that Zane, her oldest son, was her ride or die because he had been with her through everything, but she never bonded with Quinton. Leilani said these things. She also resented Quinton because she felt that if she had not had him, she would still be with Quinton's father. Michelle's daughter, Michelle is the babysitter, would also tearfully testify that she witnessed several instances of Leilani verbally and physically abusing Quinton. So if you guys don't want to hear about some detail, please fast forward. So the daughter is the cameras are not allowed to film her because she's underage. She witnessed Leilani pushing Quinton into the pool without a flotation device, and Quinton didn't know how to swim. Remember, he's 20 months old when he's killed, but this is like happening throughout his little life. She saw Leilani backhand Quinton in the face. Who does that? She saw Leilani push him where Quinton fell and hit his head on the concrete. They were there. She and her mom at different times would hear her screaming obscenities at Quinton, calling him an asshole, a little child. She would also feed this. Obviously, the physical abuse was heart-wrenching, but this really killed me too. She would also feed her oldest son, Zane, in front of Quinton and make Quinton watch and wait to feed him until after Zane was finished. It just seems so cruel to me. And Quinton would be standing there, this little boy, like he wanted to eat. And she wouldn't like conceal, she wouldn't take Zane to the other room and hide it. She would do it purposely in front of Quinton, this boy who had no idea what was going on.
So sad. And I just have to say that, like, I have to say that I can't, I have such a hard time getting my mind around stuff like this. I know, obviously, the world is not a perfect place. I don't have rose-colored glasses. It's like you said previously. I mean, there's so many options available, starting with, how about not having kids?
Right? She had.
I don't understand people. I literally do not understand people that have children and then just discard them. It's like, what's the point of going? It's not like pregnancy is like a picnic.
Right.
It's a lot of work to carry a baby and to eat healthy and to be achy all over and to have stretch marks and to watch your body take over and you have no control over what's happening. And again, I getting my mind around it is just it's inconceivable.
I know. She was 22 with 3 kids under the age of 5. Yeah, anyway. So Michelle testified that she and her daughters absolutely loved Quinton. Thank goodness for the for Michelle and her family, and they were touted in the public as just being Quinton's savior because they loved him and they would actually take him in and try to protect him. Michelle said he was a sweet little boy who loved to camp out in their living room and he loved cheese. They felt awful knowing the treatment he suffered by his own mother's hands, so they would often offer to keep Quinton for weeks at a time. And she'd be like, fine. They would care for Quinton weeks at a time, feed him. Leilani could have cared less if he was gone forever. But Michelle is asked on the stand why she didn't call CPS. And this is something I haven't looked into, but she did say that people called. I'm not sure what was done about it, but perhaps the CPS should be looked into as well. There's a lot of stories where CPS failed. Child Protective Services or whatever they're called in that
What
state.
happened to those poor kids that were in that house of horrors? Remember the 13 children? They
Right.
literally sued like Child Protective Services for like Riverside County or whatever. Don't quote me on that, but it was somewhere in Los Angeles area, that whole Inland Empire area, because they were re-traumatized. So not only was it bad enough that their parents were crazy, that both their parents are in prison. What was those kids' last name? They
Turpin.
Turpin. The boys all had that weird bowl cut with the bangs.
Yeah.
Well, then they
Uh-huh.
were re-traumatized because the foster families foster family that took them in, they re-abused them.
I saw that. I'm like,
Ugh.
why why do children have to go through this? And then I, c- I could, when I saw that the foster parents were abusing, I'm just like, it, oh my God, I just can't even,
Yeah. It's
uh,
inconceivable. I
yeah,
have to tell you, there has got to be a special hell for people who hurt children.
I
I'm
hope so.
just saying, and I don't know if it's a hell of their own creation. I don't know if it's a hell here. I don't know if it's like a burning pit of flames. I don't know because I'm not that person who determines, and I don't lay awake at night and invent hellscapes where people who prey on children will end up, spending the last moments of their life. Okay? I don't.
Yeah,
But I just like I also believe there's got to be a special hell for people who hurt animals. I
yeah.
just get like for the innocent and for the less fortunate and people, defenseless people and animals in our society and that we're surrounded by, I can't get my head around it.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to bring attention to this and also bag on bad mothers, particularly. I'm sure I'll be doing a episode on bad fathers. Okay, so the on October 18th, the jury is shown the surveillance video um, showing what authorities say is Leilani's vehicle driving to and from the mobile home park dumpster the night Quinton disappeared. And at one point, and the prosecution's visual aids, their videos, everything they put together was so stellar. There was no reasonable doubt. But you can see her car from the rear sitting in front of the dumpster. It's very grainy. You see her tail lights, but she's sits there for a good 2 minutes. And the prosecution in their closing arguments said maybe she sat there for that long, thinking about what she was about to do, which is throw your 20-month-old baby in the dumpster. On October 21st, my very favorite FBI special agent took the stand. Her name was Savannah Solomon, and she testifies about the day Quinton's remains were finally found at the landfill. She did a few interviews with Leilani where Leilani actually admitted that when she does drugs, and that night that Quinton died, so October 4th. So there's a question of whether it was, no, it was October 4th, the night of October 4th. She said she was doing coke and meth and this and that. And she said when she does coke, she loses it. She can get angry in the snap of a finger, which didn't help her at all. But you know what? Keep on talking, lady. Keep on talking.
Right.
So yeah, the day that so October 4th, October 5th is when she reports him missing. The day before, she had her wisdom tooth pulled out. She says that at 10 or 11 o'clock, she went out to get some Oragel, and she met this person, their friend that she knows, whose name was Misty, but it actually was Missy. Missy takes the stand, and she just looks pissed off. And this is what I've always said to you, Joy, is it just takes an accusation or something where you are pulled into someone else's freaking drama. This girl hadn't seen her for months. But Leilani says, I met her that night. And so now she has to take the stand. You could tell she's resentful. She's like, I never saw her that night. So Leilani, anyway, she says the evidence is that she then went home. Something happened with Quinton, possibly her snapping, like she admitted to the special agent, Savannah Solomon, that she can snap on a dime when she's on drugs. She probably did something to Quinton, and at 1 a.m. is the video of her going to the dumpster. October 22nd, Chatham County police officer Sophia Zerke is an officer who volunteered in the landfill search, and she did not miss one day of the search. So a lot of the volunteers, they might have something else to do, so they didn't do every single day for those 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. This officer volunteered every single day. And she broke down in tears on the stand when she recounted how she found the top portion of Quinton's skull. She said it fit in the palm of her hand. It also comes out that Leilani searched for, get this, is it common for a mother to have resentment or even anger towards her child because of the father or some other reason? More evidence. On October 23rd, the fabulous prosecution team rests their case, and the defense rests its case without calling a single witness because they got nothing to back her up.
Right.
Leilani chooses not to testify in her own defense. And on the 24th of October of this year, the prosecution and defense present their closing arguments, and the jury deliberations begin. On October 25th, after 6 hours of deliberation, jury finds her guilty on all 19 charges. Count 1 is malice murder. It's a homicide charge that involves the intentional and unlawful killing of another person without justification or excuse. And in Georgia, the state does not have to prove meditation. Count 2 is a felony murder. Guilty is a legal doctrine that allows someone to be charged with a murder for a killing that happens during the commission of a dangerous felony, even if they didn't directly kill the victim. So if she abused him, right? She didn't maybe mean to kill him, but it's still a felony murder.
Right.
Count 3, felony murder. I'm like, how many felony murders can you have? Well, this one is cruelty to a child in the first degree, causing cruel and excessive pain, so that it wasn't an accident. State does not have to prove how she inflicted the cruelty. Count 4, concealing the death of another. She's guilty because she tried to conceal his body in the dumpster and then, eventually the landfill. Count 5, false report of a crime. She was guilty because she reported that Quinton was abducted by a stranger, and that was a false report. She knew he wasn't abducted. And then count 6 through 19, making false statements. I won't go into each one. She made so many of these. So the guilty verdict overcame the lack of physical evidence, because when you really look at it, they didn't have any DNA. They didn't have any video of her actually hitting, striking, whatever she did to Quinton. They didn't have it.
But and I'm sure did she maintain her innocence through this?
Of course, she said it was. Yeah, it wasn't like Sarah Boone who said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he was in the suitcase, but it was an accident. It was an accident. And then later it was self-defense. No. Leilani just said it was someone else. So I just had to tell you that prosecutor, one of the prosecutors, his name is Timothy Dean. He looks like Clark Kent. He has this beautiful head of black, thick hair. He doesn't wear glasses, but oh my God, you got to look him up. Huh. Everybody in the YouTube comments was calling him Clark Kent. It was amazing to watch him every day because he was so handsome. Anyway, his co-counsel is Jenny Parker. And I'm telling you, Joy, you know I've watched a lot of trials. This is the
guys, she's watched so I can't even begin to think about how many trials Cheryl's watched.
I mean, she'll text me and I'll be like, I'm watching this trial. I'm watching that trial.
Oh, no, I'll call her and I can hear it in the background. Brr, 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 brr.
She's like, what are you listening to? I just love the whole legal process. I love the jargon.
In the night and she can't sleep. Oh, I'm going to go watch this murder trial. Like, yikes.
But Timothy Dean and his co-counsel Jenny Parker is the best prosecution presentation. They put on the best prosecution presentation I have ever seen to date. If they had prosecuted OJ, the verdict would have been much different. I'm telling you, they dotted every I, crossed every T so that there was no reasonable doubt. Because remember, the judge gives the jury instructions, and to this Clark Kent, aka Timothy Dean, he reminds the jurors what reasonable is. So it's not just any doubt. It's not. There has to be reasonable doubt. Yes, but what does reasonable mean? And there is no way with the case that they put on that you could have any reasonable doubt that Leilani did this. So she was found guilty. This was the largest investigation in Chatham County history. I just want to say I never saw any family or friends in the court showing support for Leilani. She was there every day by herself. And then the landfill where Quinton's little desecrated body, well, whatever was left was found. They created a memorial for him.
Oh,
it's like this special. It's like, it looks like a cement podium at the top. There's a plaque. And because can you imagine working there? Like, to know that was part of your workplace, a little boy's body. So that was really special. But this is just one of many horrible cases of parents behaving badly. And it is just so heartbreaking because these little babies are relying on these parents to take care of them, to keep them safe, to love them. She neither loved him or kept him safe. She has not been sentenced yet, but I will follow up with what her sentence is, and I hope it's life without parole.
Yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. Also, I can't believe I had to listen to this.
I'm sorry. You know how I like to bring the house down in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah. It was very interesting. You definitely turned over every stone.
You know, obviously the murder itself, this little boy who lost his life at the hands of his mother. I mean, it's just, but aside from that, all the other shit, I'm telling you, the landfill shit was fucking enthralling to me. Who knew? That's the thing I'm saying. Who knew, right? I mean, who knew? They got their shit together.
You could become a landfill specialist.
I got to give a shout out. Yeah.
Wow. But a shout out to landfills.
Well,
that goes up there with a shout out to shovels, to X-Acto knives, to hatchets, to
that's hilarious.
Black lights, to scorpions.
Oh my god. To pooper scoopers. That's what I was picking up. Pooper scoopers. That's what I was picking up.
Plastic bags.
Oh my god.
You know, besides me having to listen to this, you know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
Oh, that is a crime. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch managed by Cheryl Yamaguchi. Podcast editing, advertising, and social media managed by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezic. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible.com, Amazon Music, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.